Hello and welcome to another video by Rick Miracle, me, in my series Freemasonry and Satanism. Lordy, lordy, things are happening. I should rename all my videos under a new series. Welcome to the anti-revolution. Trying to wake up the people and prevent the New World Order, the New Age. A revolution that's been going on a long time. A long time. I did recently make a video on one of Nestor Webster's books, World Revolution, the plot against civilization. Well, regrettably, it's worse than that. I was looking at one of my other books that I had made some videos on by Nestor Webster. Secret Societies and Subversive Movements. Series number 70. So on my YouTube account, I had posted up to part 4. So that's 4 2-hour videos, if all 4 of those videos are 2 hours. So I was planning on making part 5 after reviewing some more information in this book, which startled me. It compares to what's happening today. We all are aware recently of the events in Charlottesville, Virginia, and Alabama, and other places across the country with supposedly white supremacists, which I guess is another way of saying white lives matter. So what does that say about black lives matter? I'll tell you what it says in my eyes. Yesterday or the day before, the Antifa group broke into a state building, government building, burned the flag, I think it was a state building, and put up the Antifa flag, which is anti-fascist. And they're accusing Donald Trump, the president, of being a fascist. And all these white supremacist groups, which they're targeting, apparently all white people, are part of the neo-Nazis. And they're creating hatred and incitement, getting the black people upset. Even one politician recently called for President Trump's assassination. A black politician. So it's certainly getting out of hand. I believe it's intentional. I believe they've done it before. Whether it's the French Revolution, Russian Revolution, World War I, World War II, 9/11, that riled everybody up, pointing a finger at the Arabs, Islamists, Muslims, and people who resisted, insurgents. People who wanted to get food for their children was an insurgent. They had helicopters, machine gunning people. Planes dropping incendiary bombs, firebombs, just burning the people. Phosphorus, like molten lava coming from the sky. Unbelievable. I know. I get a little dramatic because apparently it's a dramatic situation. It's all over the news. And then, of course, they had a vehicle running into a crowd of people in Spain, and they said it was extremist. Apparently it was some Arabs or Muslims, but they didn't use that word, according to Alex Jones on Infowars.com and the newspaper articles that he showed. So it seems like they're declaring anybody who speaks up, probably even me, claiming we're extremists. Because I'm a white male, of course, I gotta be part of the problem, they're going to say. And nobody could be more of a pacifist who wants to solve these problems through peaceful means. I don't believe in violence and killing people. I am a Christian, and I do believe in the Ten Commandments, and the sixth commandment says, "Thou shalt not kill." And Jesus, when he was on earth trying to teach us, added another commandment, is we are to love one another. So I believe people from all over the world, from Africa to China to India to Russia, United States, Brazil, everywhere, that we're all equal. And that we should be treated fairly, and the people we elect to political office should be looking out for us and being fair in their dealings with other countries in trading in labor-produced goods and resources, etc. But there are greedy forces, selfish forces, people with ideas that they have a better DNA, that they are divine and we are not. Who are these people? Why do they belong to secret societies? Why do they swear on a Bible or other books under threat of death, having their throat cut if they tell other people the secrets or they don't obey the master? So I say we are in trouble, the evil forces are at work, and anybody who wants to pay attention can do some research and look it up and see. What I have seen is there's a lot of deception going on. Most of us don't belong to any political right, black or white or any color, extremism group like Ku Klux Klans or white supremacist groups. Most of us, 99% of us, most of us don't belong to the extreme left, communism, extreme progressivism, the Rainbow Coalition, all this weirdness, anti-Christianity. 99% of the people don't belong to that either. These are orchestrated groups. They get paid money. Crisis actors. They're part of these people that are part of secret societies, revolutionaries, Zionist Jewish people, communist, Illuminati, high-level Freemasons, Rosicrucianism, witchcraft covens, Kabbalists, mysticism. And again, that does not include 99% of us. 1%, I can't even believe there's 2%, but 1% of the world population is causing these problems. And regrettably, there are groups throughout history who belong to 1% and have brought the accusations on others of their own groups. So I thought when I was reading some information from this book again that I would make another video, and I thought it would be part 5. But when I looked on my hard drive where I save all my videos I made, hundreds of them, there was actually 7 2-hour videos made, and I had only posted 4. So I had 3 that were in the archives that weren't posted, and 1 is downloading right now. That's number 5. So I've got to download number 6 and number 7, series 70, Secret Societies and Subversive Movements. Well, that's a lot of material. And on this video, I'm going to make part 8. It's that important. And when I read from this book, and you pay attention or look into it, with these activities going on all over the world, you will see the preparations are being made. They've already been made, but they're accelerating for some type of revolution, some kind of major warfare between groups, blacks or whites, rich or poor, gays or straights, Americans against the Russians, Americans against the Arabs. Whatever they do, you can bet it's part of the deception. We're being lied to, we're being deceived, and we're being beguiled. A lot of people making money on the stock market, getting drugs, drinking alcohol, street parties. Life is just a party. The government's handing out checks and even free cell phones. It's just a party, beguilement. Because the government's not going to continue giving out money. And they'll blame it on the whites, maybe. And the black people who will be suffering, not all black people, will believe that the white people did it because of the propaganda. And then some white people will believe it's the poor people's problem. These forces that we elect, senators, representatives, presidents, people who are billionaires owning corporations, banking systems, they're bringing us this destruction, and it's intentional. I think I need a glass of water. So with all that said, I'm going to read from this. I'll read from the preface, just a sentence or two. But the state of the world at the end of the Great War, so they didn't know there was going to be World War II. So World War I was the Great War. At the end of the Great War seemed to demand an inquiry into the present phase of the revolutionary movement. Hence my attempt to follow its course up to modern times in World Revolution. I just showed you that book. So Mr. Webster has been busy. So apparently this book here was the third book. And now, before returning to that first cataclysm, I have felt impelled to devote one more book to the revolution as a whole by going this time further back into the past and attempting to trace its origins from the first century of the Christian era. So trace it back all the way to the birth of Jesus, the Messiah, whom the Jewish people were praying for, whose prophecy told them that Messiah was coming. They were expecting him. But he was a king and a Messiah preaching love. They weren't expecting that. They wanted a king or a Messiah to come from God who would help them rule the world, dominate the world. So we all know what happened to Jesus. He was crucified. And to prove that he was from this other world, he told people before it happened that he would rise from the dead on the third day. And apparently he did. And there's lots of other information out there to support the fact that Jesus was real. Whether it's channeled material, like even Edgar Cayce, even in the occult literature, mysticism, a lot of those books talk about Jesus. So the more I dig into it, the more evidence supports the fact that this man came into this world with some kind of spiritual component to his creation that was not from this world. And that's what he said. And then again, we all know that we are, most of us know, that we are spiritual beings in these biological bodies. So what purpose are we here for? I'm not sure. Is it some huge planetary school for souls to grow and have experiences? Maybe. So what does that say about the forces that are anti-God, anti-Jesus? And they have been, and they want to dominate and rule over other people. They're into perverted sexual activities with men, women, and children. And they work behind the scenes to have governments and countries go to war. In the meantime, they crash the economy and use other techniques to steal the wealth and the hard work, whatever the people have earned, from them. Their very lives, their very health. We're being ripped off by these forces all the time. But that's enough for what I think here. I'll read from the book. and then see what you think. And in the meantime, I posted part 5. I'll download part 6 and download part 7. And where this one comes into part 8 just matters when I finish it and when I can download it. It'll be in the day or so. So it's going to be a lot of information from this book, Secret Societies and Subversive Movements. All right, listen to this. Beginning with a diatribe against the French monarchy, a document goes on to say this: we must overthrow, this is 1789 by the way, all order, suppress all laws, annul all power, and leave the people in anarchy. Where have we heard this before? George Bush Sr. said, out of chaos and anarchy will come the New World Order. Look this stuff up, I say, don't believe me. The laws we establish will not perhaps be in force at once, but at any rate, having given back the power to the people, they will resist for the sake of their liberty, which they will believe they are preserving. Remember, it's all deception. We must caress their vanity, flatter their hopes, promise them happiness after our work has been in operation. We must elude their caprices and their systems at will. For the people as legislators are very dangerous, so they don't want us to be in charge. Although they tell us after we destroy the system, we'll be in charge. Is that what they're telling the people they're trying to incite with hatred? Black people across the country, or incite hatred from the Southerners taking down the statues? They use all the tools at their disposal, these revolutionaries. They only establish laws which coincide with their passions. Their want of knowledge would besides only give birth to abuses. But as the people are a lever which legislators can move at their will, we must necessarily use them as a support and render hateful to them everything we wish to destroy. Render hateful to them everything we wish to destroy. Do you get it? It's in this book, page 241. And sow illusions in their path. So they have to make everybody believe everything's going to be great after they destroy the evil white people, or the evil Christians, or the evil black people, or the evil Russians, or the evil Chinese, or the evil Arabs, the evil Iranians. We must also buy all the mercenary pens which propagate our methods. So they have to hire people to write these press releases you see in the paper. Mercenary pens which propagate our methods, and which will instruct the people concerning their enemies whom we attack. The clergy, being the most powerful through public opinion, can only be destroyed by ridiculing religion. When was this book published? 1924. Does any of this sound familiar? Pause your computer and read it. That's why I do book reviews. I don't want people saying, well, Rick, you said that. How can we believe it? We don't know what to believe. Nestor Webster was an intelligent, serious researcher in 1924 after World War I. And then apparently the Zionists couldn't get the Palestinians' land over there in the Middle East. Britain backed out on the agreement, the Balfour Agreement. So they brought us World War II. And then they got the land. But that's only one or two phases of the program. Now they have the land, they call it Israel, and they have nuclear weapons, and they have something called the Samson option. Please look it up, involving nuclear weapons. I've mentioned what it is before, and I'll leave people in suspense, because if they go look it up, they're going to be horrified and shocked what the Samson option is. Back to the book. Esther Webster was ahead of her time, you think? Ridiculing religion, rendering its ministers odious, and only representing them as hypocritical monsters. A lot of people believe this. In the 1920s, 1910, 1930s, they had congressional communist hearings. They said they were going to infiltrate our systems, tear them down from the inside, discredit them. And they have. It's part of the New Age, the New World Order. Only representing them as hypocritical monsters. For Muhammad, in order to establish his religion, firstly defamed the paganisms which the Arabs, the Sarmatis, and the Scythians professed. So they're saying because Muhammad discredited the pagans, defamed them, riled up the Arabs to destroy them, and create the Arab religion of Islam, Mohammedanism, and discredited some other groups, because that's how he did it. This is how they need to do it. Libels must at every moment show fresh traces of hatred against the clergy. So they have to say lies, libels against the clergy, and get the people to believe it. And guess what? The people do believe it. They don't believe they've been deceived, but that's how deception works. To exaggerate their riches, to make the sins of an individual appear common to all. So they infiltrate the religious institutions, even the Vatican. And they put some people in there, and these people became pedophilias, molesting little boys. And then they publicized it. It was all set up, all staged. And of course the public blames all the Christians, or all the Catholics, or all the priests. It says here in this book, published in 1924, that's part of the plan. To attribute them to all vices, calumny, murder, irreligion, sacrilege, all is permitted in times of revolution. So all of these things are tools of the revolution. You understand why they put the things in the newspaper, created those incidences? Who in their right mind, a person like me or somebody watching this video, would join the Ku Klux Klan? Would go up there and try to have a march for white supremacy? It just doesn't make sense. Do the Chinese do that? Do the Indians from India do that? Do the Irish come into the United States and want a supreme, to think of themselves as supreme beings of the world and rule us? The Germans don't do that. The Brazilians don't do that. The Mexican Mayans don't do that. The Eskimos from Alaska don't do that. The Hawaiians don't do that. Who does that? We must degrade the noblesse. So anybody who's has any kind of reputation needs to be degraded. Attribute it to odious origin. Establish a germ of equality which can never exist, but which will flatter the people. All this deception. We must immolate the most obstinate, burn and destroy their property in order to intimidate the rest. So that if we cannot entirely destroy this prejudice, we can weaken it. So they're attacking the system that runs this country. And the people will avenge their vanity and their jealousy by all the excesses which will bring them to submission. And you can't really talk to some of the people who are brainwashed. I was watching an Alex Jones video today, just published. He's in Seattle. You can go see the video. And he's on the city street trying to talk to people. Has his little microphone in his hand and a cameraman. And a lot of people were throwing the bird at him, the middle finger, swearing F you. And he said, I just want to have a conversation. Can't we talk? One guy threw some hot coffee at him. So let me tell you, this mind control has taken root in America. And those people they won't talk. They get vicious. They want to punch you. They do radical things. They're mind controlled. We need to pray for these people. Oh my Lord. And I'm not talking just about the left, progressives or liberals. They've been mind controlled. I'm talking about these people that on the right who think that everybody else is evil, white supremacists or whatever they are. They've been mind controlled. Only Republicans can do it. The liberals are all evil. The Democrats are all evil. I've got friends on both sides of the fence. You can't talk to them. If you disagree with them, they will scream at you. Get into a point of hysteria. After describing how the soldiers are to be seduced from their allegiance and the magistrates represented to the people as despots, they've done all this, just what they said they were going to do. Since the people, brutal and ignorant, only see the evil and never the good things, the writer explains they must be given only limited power in the municipalities. So think about it. The good. A lot of people, granted not everybody, but a lot of us sleep in clean beds, have bathrooms, have kitchens, have food we can cook, sleep safe at night, so far. If these people bring about this revolution they're talking about, and shut down the electric grid and shut down the water supply, sewer systems and everything else, and bring out the Hunger Games movie type reality, we will have lost everything that's good. They will not spend 10 cents to try to make us comfortable. Quite the obvious if you've watched any movies or read anything about history. They'd have no intentions of making life comfortable for us. And so many people are buying into the propaganda, the deception, even the beguilement. And they don't realize, if they just thought about it, they would realize the outcome of this thing is going to be horrific. Back to the book. Let us beware, above all, of giving them too much force. Their despotism is too dangerous. We must flatter the people by gratuitous justice, promise them a great diminution in taxes. They're going to promise to reduce the taxes. The evil government. And I'm sure right now that there is an evil government in place, but the revolution that they want to bring about is not the solution. They want to destroy the people and the existing government. This is nothing new. That's what a revolution is. Then they purge the population of thinkers, of good people. Then the major population will learn about difficult times. They will regret what they did. In a more equal division, more extensives in fortunes and less humiliation. So they're promising this to the people. This is what riles them up. And as we know with presidential elections lately, the last several, they tell us one thing, they're going to bring us change or make America great again. And can we believe them? Have they brought us change? Is President Donald Trump, trying to do the right thing? It makes me a little suspicious when he dropped the mother of all bombs on Afghanistan and launched 59 missiles towards Syria. That wasn't what I wanted, and that isn't what he said he would do. So I'm still trying to keep an open mind. And they are saying little things in the paper, or George Bush Jr. said, "Do you miss me yet?" Or Obama's in the news being portrayed as the good guy. These politicians, these Illuminati secret society elites who control the media, are taking every opportunity to deceive us. All right, these fantasies will fanaticize the people. So they'll use these fantasies, these promises, to make fanatics out of the people, who will flatten out all resistance. Again, you can't talk to these people. They'll punch you in the face. You don't like gay marriage? Take this. It's crazy. What matter the victims and their numbers? Spoliations, destructions, burnings, and all the necessary effects of a revolution. Nothing must be sacred, and we can say with Machiavellian, what matter the means as long as one arrives at the end? I think this is going to backfire on the gay people who were doing quite well in America. If they bring about this revolution, it could bring about a whole lot of hatred. And I think the people who are trying to bring us this revolution know that. They don't have any love for gay people. They're using them. And they know that a good portion of the population will turn on them also. The same thing with riling up the black people. They don't have any good intentions towards the black people, these revolutionaries. They know there'll be a big battle and likely the people will get destroyed. They don't care. That's the way revolutions work. The people who are pulling them off are behind the scenes. You never see them. You don't know what their agenda is. But we do know the Zionist Jewish people, the books I've gone over and read, are planning on a Jewish utopia. And I don't think it's just Jewish people, and it certainly is not all Jewish people. Inside the Jewish camp, there's been a big battle going on between the Orthodox and the Reformed or the Illuminati Luciferian Jewish people, people into mysticism and the Kabbalah. And that stuff's in this book here, by the way. Clearly says there's a battle even in the Jewish world. The evil forces, I guess, into some kind of satanic Luciferian demonology have turned away from God. And the God-fearing Jewish people, the people who have written books, famous books that I've gone over in my videos, have been trying to warn us. Benjamin Friedman, I've put his speech in a couple of my videos. Just go online, you can listen to it for free. He's a famous Jewish person from New York City. Plenty of people are telling the truth. With that said, I'll just post a little clip about one Jewish leader who says we need to accept globalism and that we don't have a choice. And he talks about the countries that were overthrown in the Middle East, but he only mentions a couple of them. He doesn't mention 9/11 and the rest of the countries that have been overthrown. So even what he's talking about, what he leaves out, is also part of the deception.
There are significant political changes on the map from day to day. First it was Tunisia, then Egypt, Libya, now Syria. What do all those changes mean for the Middle East? And all that's happening, is it positive for Israel?
Yes. I mean, there may be a transitional period that will create some difficulties, but in the long run, yes, look. It's not that those countries are changing. All countries are changing because the world has changed. And nobody has a choice, either to go with the modern age or to lag behind and really become poor and irrelevant. What's happening is, governments are no longer controlling their own economy. Instead of a national economy, you have a global economy. Now, if you want to enter, you have to follow the new rules of economy.
Exactly.
As you can see, I watch a lot of videos myself, and that was a little clip I spliced out of Brother Nathaniel's video. So there's a lot of people you can go watch, and if you know what's going on, it makes everything else make sense. If you don't know what's going on, none of it makes sense. But apparently what is going on is so bizarre, people just don't believe it. They don't want to believe it. They don't want to deal with it. Back to the book. Subversive Societies, Secret Societies and Subversive Movements. Pardon me, it's Saturday today. I should be down at the pool. Were all these ideas of Marabout, or were they like the other documents of the Illuminati? It says Illuminati here. Found amongst his papers the program of a conspiracy. So they did find a courier who crashed, had an accident, and in his pouch, in this material I read, had the whole plan for a new world order. Back in the late 1700s. Albert Pike, during 1880s, wrote a letter to his friend Mazzini in Italy describing the 3 world wars that would be required to bring about a new world order and who they would have to be fought between. So far, the first 2 he was correct, and the third one apparently is on target, as he described, and he was in communication with a master, some beings from the other side. Just like the rest of the occults, occultists, mysticism, Kabbalah, witchcraft people, magic, secret societies. I incline to the latter theory. The plan of campaign was, at any rate, the one followed out by the conspirators at Chamfort, the friend and confidant of Marabout, admitted in his conversation with Marmontel. The nation is a great herd that only thinks of browsing. So we're a herd of cattle, and all we want to do is browse around and eat the grass and eat the hay. That's what they think of us. And with good sheepdogs, the shepherds can lead it as they please. So these conspirators, secret societies, Zionist, communist, Illuminati, banksters, elites, can lead us as they please. Money and the hope of plunder are all powerful with the people. And look how many times they've used that. When they do these riots and the people start breaking glass windows, running down the street with a TV. How many times have you seen that on TV? How bizarre. Marabout cheerfully asserts that with 100 Louis, so I think that means like a $50,000, one can make quite a good riot. They talk about George Soros and his money instigating the liberal progressive Rainbow Coalition. And of course you have secret societies also financing the rights, conservative Christians, extremist groups, which amounts to just a teeny portion of we people. You take 100 million white people, you might have 100 people belonging to these things. But people are blind to that. They don't realize that the 100 million of us would never get involved in anything like that. Just like the black people. Take 100 million of them, 50 million of them. and you show some black people running down the street like a crazed maniac with a TV during a riot, 99.999% of the black people would never do that. But what do people think? It just irritates me at the deception and the different parties buying into it, knowing full well they plan on a great destruction. And it says worse things in this book. Marabeau, in the exuberance of an orgy, cried one day that Canelli well deserves to have us for legislators. So these people get a little emotional. Exuberance of an orgy. I like Nestor Webster's literary skills. These professions of faith, as we see, are not at all democratic. The sect uses the populace as revolutionary fodder. You know what fodder is? So all those people who are getting hooked up in these anti-fada, anti-fascist, white supremacist, KKK, they're revolutionary fodder, revolutionary manure. Can I be any clearer without saying the words? As prime material for brigandage, after which it seizes the gold and abandons generations to torture. So after they cause the revolution, just like they did in the Ukraine, they leave the generations to come, your children, you, their children, your grandchildren, to torture. It is veritably the code of hell. That's what it says here. And that is Labarge Language, Histories of the Jacobins, page 31, 1820 that was written. And the Jacobins were a certain sect of Freemasons. I'm reading the information. This is a warning. So have many other people been trying to warn everybody. Many God-fearing, famous, good Jewish people have been trying to warn us. But a lot of the people from the clergy, the churches, and the politicians, and the elite, wealthy people are all working behind the scenes to deceive us, to destroy us. And a lot of them are controlled by the Kabbalists, the Zionists, the Illuminati, the Communists, certain sects or groups of people who think that they're divine beings, gods living as humans on earth, and that we are all meant to be their slaves. They've said these things. I've gone over this stuff. It is this code of hell set forth in the Project de Revolution, little French here, that we shall find repeated in succeeding documents throughout the last 100 years. Nestor Webster wrote this in 1924. A serious researcher. In the correspondence of Alta Vendetta, in the dialogues, interpreting French here, pardon me, dialogues aux enfants entre Machiavellian et Montesquieu by Morris Joly in the Revolutionary Catechism of Banquam, in the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, and in the writings of the Russian Bolsheviks today, 1924. Do you know what was going on back then? The Russian Revolution, where supposedly they killed 100 million Christians and other good people, citizens of Russia, largely by starvation, and a lot of them, they just shot them in the head. And if a judge, a Jewish judge, didn't want to be harsh in his punishment to all these citizens, these Jewish leaders would drag him off the bench and shoot him too. These Bolshevik Jewish people are not too nice. These Zionist Jewish people are not too nice. high-level people in Freemasonry, Rosicrucians, Illuminati, all these secret societies, the occult, mysticism, witchcraft covens, and all that, are not too nice. They would shoot you just as soon as look at you or me. Make no mistake about that, and they're the ones who control the newspapers, planning this revolution, planning World War III, planning economic destruction, providing us with all these programs of sustainability, global warming, terrorism. They're pulling all the tools out of the revolutionary tool bag. All right, moving back to the book, page 243. Whatever doubts may be cast on the authenticity of any of these documents, that's the Protocols of Zion, Nestor Webster writing about them in 1924. A lot of people like to say they're a hoax. So let's see what she has to say. And I've quoted a lot of famous Jewish people who are trying to warn us as saying that they believe the Protocols of Zion are also authentic. They were never meant to fall into people's hands. But that's the arrogance of these evil entities. They don't appear to be too smart, really. All right. So anybody questioning the authenticity of any of these documents, the indisputable fact thus remains that as early as 1789, this Machiavellian plan of engineering revolution and using the people as a lever for raising a tyrannical minority to power has been formulated. Further, that the methods described in the earlier protocols have been carried out according to plan from that day to this. And in every outbreak of social revolution, the authors of the movement have been known to be connected with secret societies. Get it? Got it? Not me. Page 243. It was Andrea Duport, author of The Great Fear, that spread over France on July 22, 1789. Duport, the inner initiate of the secret societies, holding in his hands all the threads of a Masonic conspiracy, who on May 21, 1790, set forth before the Committee of Propaganda the vast scheme of destruction. May 21st, 1790, a vast scheme of destruction. So let's see what happened after that. World War I, Russian Revolution, World War II, 9/11, 1913, they created the Federal Reserve and took over the USA money supply and installed their puppet-controlled president, Woodrow Wilson, who deceived the American people and got them into World War I. Just saying. I read and I report. M.D. Marabout has well established the fact that the fortunate revolution which had taken place in France must and will be for the peoples of Europe our awakening to liberty, and for kings the sleep of death. Wow. But Dupont goes on to explain that whilst Marabout thinks it advisable to present not to concern themselves with anything outside France, he himself believes that the triumph of a French Revolution must lead inevitably to the ruin of all thrones. Therefore, we must hasten among our neighbors the same revolution that is going on in France. So they want to destroy all nations. The plan of illuminized Freemasonry was thus nothing less than world revolution And that's so powerful, I'll have to show you the page. Top paragraph, this page. Wow. So now we know what we see on TV and in the newspapers. What's going on? Is there any doubt? It is necessary here to reply to a critic who suggested that in emphasizing the role of secret societies in world revolution, I have abandoned my former thesis of the Orleanist conspiracy. I wish, therefore, to state that I do not retract one word I wrote in the French Revolution on the Orleanist conspiracy. I merely supply a further explanation of its efficiency by enlarging on the aid it received from the party I refer to as the subversives, outcome of the Masonic lodges. It was because the Orientalists, so I guess it's these groups called Orleans, and they call them Orleanists, groups of them, held the whole Masonic organization at their disposal, that they were able to carry out their plans with such extraordinary skill and thoroughness, and because they had at their back men bent solely on destruction, that they could enlist a following which would not have railed to a mere scheme of absorption. Even Montjoy, who saw in the revolution principally the work of Duke d'Orléans, indicates in a very curious passage of a later work the existence, get this, of a still darker intrigue. Behind the conspiracy he had spent his energies in unveiling. I will not examine whether this wicked prince, thinking he was acting in his personal interest, was not moved by that invisible hand, which seems to have created all the events of our revolution in order to lead us toward a goal that we do not see at present, but which I think we shall see before long. So what is this unseen hand? Would that be the all-seeing eye on the $1 bill? Above the pyramid? Egyptian hieroglyphics? Would that be Luciferian doctrine, stuff mentioned in the Bible? I was startled. Somebody entered on my left. I hope you're finding this conversation interesting. It's not things most of us want to deal with or think about. But some of the things going on in our reality, like the bringing out of the 5G network, some high frequency communication system that engulfs everything, everywhere, permeates everything. That means the frequencies are so short, so small, like X-rays. They can go right into your body, mess with your cells and everything. And so much more insanity going on. Preparations. Even after the eclipse on Monday, just a couple days, this is Saturday, they say they're having a big exercise with the electricity going out all across the country 2 days later, preparations or some kind of testing of the system. Why would they do that? Why would they do Jade Helm 15? I don't believe, it's taken me a while to come to this conclusion, that there's such a thing as a predictability on a pole shift or planet Nibiru, planet X, or any of this. They've been using this scare tactic for quite a while. I think they're deceiving us. And even if it did happen, there is no place to hide. There is no place to go. Think about it. Would you really want to be alive? we're spiritual beings. We're not going to get off this planet alive anyways. So I think as from the spiritual point of view, it's more important to trust God. Trust yourself. So I think all that other stuff, global warming, running out of oil, they have technologies that are 100 years of what we all know about. And apparently they're weaponizing everything. We'll see that really soon on a video I make about this book. The day after Roswell. What did they do? Or say they did with all those technologies they found on a crashed craft? Why did they re-engineer all that science, technology, and secret and weaponize a lot of it? Think about it. So back to the book. So unfortunately, after this mysterious utterance, Monjoie never again returned to the subject. At the beginning of the revolution, Orleanism and Freemasonry thus formed a united body, according to Lambert de la Gresse. France in 1789 counted more than 2,000 lodges affiliated to the Grand Orient. The number of adepts was more than 100,000. The first events of 1789 were only masonry in action. All the revolutionaries of the Constituent Assembly were initiated into the third degree. And I've been saying with all these lodges they have all over the United States, all these occult organizations, and a lot of people going to them or being part of them are being deceived or beguiled. Yoga, meditation, New Age organizations. But anyways, they're all interconnected, or they're connected to some higher authority on a pyramid above them. And those people above them are connected to somebody above them. So to bring out the white Lives Matter, KKK, white supremacist people to march is pretty easy to do with a few phone calls to the masters of these organizations. And to bring out the left, Rainbow Coalition, and all those progressives and liberals, a women's march on this or women's march on that, or a people's march on the wall between the United States and Mexico. Just takes a phone call and you got these people out there. They're being paid. They're being bussed from both sides. And again, 99.9% of us are not involved in any of this. But take 85% divided by 2. Is that 42.5%? Believe in either the right or the left, and they're being duped. 15% of the people are awake and aware of the deception, that everybody is being played for fools. And again, like Alex Jones speaking in Seattle, in the video I watched this morning, where the one guy who looked like a crazy man threw coffee at him, and a lot of other people kept giving him the bird or F you when he said, just speak to the camera, tell the people what you think. Anyways, apparently, according to Alex Jones on Infowars.com, these things that happened recently, which have kicked off other incidences, it's like a domino effect, but apparently it's crashing the stock market by $1 billion or something. So I know that if you're planning these things, and you know how to plan and play the stock market, like the elites do, they can leverage their position. They've probably already sold off. A lot of people think things are going to go south and sell their stocks. And it's all a ruse. It's all a deception. And then when they buy, when everything goes low, these elites that have already sold out will buy everything back and go for the roller coaster back up on all the different stocks. And you know what they're going to do again a few months later or a year later? They'll create another incident and cause the roller coaster to go down again on the stock market. Stealing billions from us. Wealth. Our government wealth. Retirement funds. Who knows where they invest the Social Security funds? Union funds. Firemen's Association retirement funds. So much. School teacher retirement funds. Anyways, that's what they're doing. That's what Alex Jones was talking about. He had all the newspapers from Seattle. And then they have that incident in Spain, and they're saying extremists did it. And I'm thinking, the people that are bringing us this new world order, these maybe a revolution, all kinds of destruction, World War III, they do not want people like me or Alex Jones or anybody talking about it. And they would love to have a reason to arrest people who talk about it. Sorry for my misspeaking. And if they had these laws in place and they could suppress free speech, they could say that what I'm saying on this video about the Illuminati, Zionists, secret societies, etc. is hate speech. And they do this prior to revolutions, during wars. And who's to stop them? The people seem to be participating in this stuff with a vengeance on both sides. The extremists are bringing them the events, and a good portion of the citizens out there are following either the Republicans or the Democrats. The tactic is working. It says it here in this book. It was these fiercer elements, true disciples of the Illuminati, who were to sweep away the visionary Masons, dreaming of equality and brotherhood. So the Illuminati, just so we can be clear here, invaded the Freemasonic lodges who actually believed in equality and brotherhood. They took control of them. Following the precedent set by Wushoff, classical pseudonyms were adopted by these leaders. Of the Jacobins, thus Clamamite was known as Anaxagoras, Schutz as Anarchus, Dayton as Horus, Lacrosse as Publicola. So these are these names they took upon themselves. I think George Bush Jr. was known as Spartacus. So these people in these skull and bones, high up on the Freemasons, Illuminati, all these organizations, they have pseudonyms for names. Just like they have secret symbols. After the manner of the Illuminati, the names of towns were changed and a revolutionary calendar was adopted. The red cap and loose hair affected by the Jacobin appear also to have been foreshadowed in the lodges of the Illuminati. So they have Illuminati, Freemasonry, all kinds of occult lodges everywhere, New Age, groups that join the Rainbow Coalition associations. They're all organized. And they can call on these people for protest or riots, whatever they want, marches anytime they want, all for public consumption. Get it? Got it? It is what it is. Yet faithfully, as the terrorists carried out the plan of the Illuminati, so the Illuminati control the lodges. The lodges control a lot of people. The lodges and a lot of secret society and occult organizations. And they carried out terror events. It would seem that they themselves were not initiated into the innermost secrets of the conspiracy. So a lot of these people you see in these marches and organizations are just people who were recruited. I mean, what mindset do you have to join something called the Ku Klux Klans and put a hood on in the middle of the night and burning a straw statue of a person, or in the history, hanging somebody? behind the convention, behind the clubs, behind the revolutionary tribunal, there existed, says Lombard de la Gresse, the most secret convention, which directed everything after May 31st, an occult and terrible power of which other convention became the slave, and which was composed of the prime initiates of the Illumination. So what's behind the Illuminati? I suspect it's the Kabbalists, the people into witchcraft and magic and demon worship. And that would have been one sect of the Jewish people who were opposed to the Orthodox, good Jewish people, God-fearing Jewish people. So you have to be careful. It's not all Jews. Some people want to say it is, but apparently, according to my research and all this material, it calls it here an occult and terrible power. And according to the information out of the Encyclopedia Judaica that I've been going over, the historic history of many Jews was the Kabbalah. And what else is the Kabbalah? That produces magicians, but magic. And what is magic? That would also be the tools of witches. And again, I'm not against psychic powers and healing and communicating with God and praying, but they don't want us to pray or go to church or believe in God. Rabbi Marvin Antelman wrote the 2 books to eliminate the opaque, your belief in God. He tells how the Frankists and Sabbatins, Luciferian demonic Satanists, have their own religious ceremonies, including sexual orgies and stuff like that, killing babies and children and sex with children. Again, I say it is what it is. If you look into it, you're going to find out, and you're not going to be happy you found out. This power was above Robespierre and the committee of the government. So the government officials who are being bribed or duped into believing something, even our government today, a lot of them don't know the sinister plans for America and the world. If they did, they would be in serious fear for their own lives, especially their own souls and spirits. If only they could wake up also. But they've been duped. They've been told a big asteroid is coming, Planet X, global warming, pole shift, ice age, and they have to do this to save humanity. They use the excuse of peak oil. I think, what was it? Michael Rupert crossing the Rubicon. They use 911. So a lot of government officials have been duped also. So all the people out there who are on the extreme left or right who are doing this, be aware the normal people who are Democrats and normal people that are Republicans might just wake up to your shenanigans. Wouldn't that be nice? And if we could all converge to be in the middle and try to get our planet back together. These people who are controlling our planet right now are letting the infrastructure decay. So they're just going to bring further problems on America and the world. It was this occult power which appropriated to itself the treasures of the nation and distributed them to the brothers and friends who had helped them on the great work. So these people who belong to these Freemason lodges, Illuminati, or other organizations, the people higher up on these organizations get some of this stolen wealth also. And of course, a lot of people who come from wealthy families, they have mansions and ships and other things they have to pay for and maintain, and they need to keep that money flowing in. Then would they sell their souls or sell us out to do it? It seems they would, and it seems that they are. Okay, here it says on page 245, what is the aim of this occult power? Was it merely the plan of destruction that had originated in the brain of the Bavarian professor 20 years earlier? Or was it something far older, a live and terrible force that had lain dormant through the centuries that Warshap and his allies had not created but only loosed upon the world? So these people who are into witchcraft, magic, doing these satanic rituals, are they loosening some of these demonic forces on the world right now? Look at the accusations and information exposed about CERN. Look at the archways of Baal, the devil, they tried to put up in New York and London. And later I found out UNESCO of the United Nations, they were trying to put up 1,000 of these. Look at all the satanic rituals during the Emmys, Grammys, Super Bowl halftime shows, Olympic openings, bridge ceremonies, American singing contest, Eurovision version. Conchita Wurst wins. Wurst means sausage. Face like Jesus, body like a slim woman in a silky dress. Singing the song, The Phoenix Rising, which has the words in it, "You can't stop us." So I'm reading these pages here and I know all this other stuff. What else am I supposed to think? What are you supposed to think? Those of you who are watching my video. There is a comment section. You disagree? Leave a nice comment. Say, Rick, maybe you're wrong. Maybe all the conservative Republicans are all insane. Or somebody else would say, Rick, you're wrong. All the Democrat, liberals, and progressives, they're all insane. I don't believe that. I believe a lot of people have been fooled. I do believe there are bought and paid for extremists on both sides playing us for fools. All right, moving back to the book. The Reign of Terror. Well, we know what that's all about since 9/11 and before. Oklahoma City building bombing. All of this stuff seems to be connected to FBI organizations, CIA, white supremacist group, which are controlled and organized for public consumption. Secret societies. Like the outbreak of Satanism in the Middle Ages. So you think I am crazy by mentioning this stuff? Nestor Webster talks about it and what happened in the Middle Ages. So back then they were into witchcraft and Satanism and rituals, and they had an outbreak of Satanism in the Middle Ages, and it was horrible. I mean, there was murder and insanity like you wouldn't believe. Can be explained by no material causes. An orgy of hatred, lust, and cruelty directed not only against the rich, but still much more against the poor and defenseless. The destruction of science, art, and beauty, the desecration of the churches, the organized campaign against all that was noble, all that was sacred, all that humanity holds dear, was what this but Satanism? In desecrating the churches, stamping on the crucifixes, the Jacobins had in fact followed the precise formula of black magic. Can you imagine my astonishment when I was reading this? I've spent going on 13 years researching, trying to figure out WTH. What the heck is going on? I had no idea where it would lead me. I just noticed that there were some coincidences that were just too coincidence. People losing their homes in Argentina, Germany, Canada, California, Florida, Ohio, and other things. I was a businessman and people I knew were, their gross sales was falling like a rock. And then we all know they opened up these big mart stores for office supplies, home supplies, anything else you could buy, and putting millions of small businesses out of business. And the people who took these jobs were getting minimum wage. And if they had a living wage in a particular city, they would open up the mart store right outside the city line so they wouldn't have to pay the living wage. So they're weakening we the people in this country, reducing our wealth, and wealth equals some power to have some free time to think and read and talk or do things, send kids to college, whatever, participate in civic affairs. But if you're poor and struggling, you can't do those things. You think that's part of the plan? So it says it right here, it seems like black magic. That would explain a lot. Think about it. The precise formula of black magic. I've been going over a lot of information from channeled material, Jewish mysticism, remote viewing. There's a lot more to reality than we know, and it might just behoove us to wake up to that fact. Why don't they want you to believe in God, go to church, be a decent person? Why do they want to promote decadency? Anyways, in desecrating the churches and stamping on the crucifixes, the Jacobins had in fact followed the precise formula of black magic for the purpose of infernal evocation. So even Stephen Greer of the Serious Disclosure Project about UFO and aliens, he gets a group of people going down to the beach or wherever, and they do these evocations or incantations, like hocus pocus, abracadabra. That's a simple example. And apparently they're calling forth some kind of beings that they can see. Look at all the channelers channeling information, the videos I've made and been going over. I'm going to revisit that topic again and again. Remote viewing again and again. Mysticism again and again. Kabbalah again and again. I'm going to try to understand this stuff. What kind of being, God or demon or whatever, fallen angel are they following? Who are the reptilians? What is this being that apparently these people worship in the Illuminati that are called shapeshifters by David Icke? What are we talking about? Seems to be a big mystery. So infernal evocation. It is requisite to profane, so it's one of their satanic rituals. We've been seeing this on TV programming everywhere, symbolism everywhere. You even got the people in Hollywood doing the devil sign, 3 6s, the all-seeing eye, the devil sign, the 3 6s, the devil sign, the mark of the beast, and preparing to electronically connect all of us to a beast computer. The G5 system, is that what it's called? Alright, so to profane the ceremonies of the religion to which one belongs, and to trample its holiest symbols underfoot. So why would people be doing that to religious symbols? And a lot of people out there in the public are buying into it. Many people tell me, Rick, get with the times. There's no God. You've got no soul. It's all meant to control we the people, the population. And in the 1920s, they had congressional hearings saying they were going to infiltrate all the systems and deceive the people. The communist investigations by our congressmen, House of Representatives. So they said they were going to do it. Even earlier than that, they even infiltrated the Vatican. They had revolutions and all kinds of terror all over Europe. They've been doing it. And it looks like we got a bad day coming unless we wake up. It was this that formed the prelude to the Great Terror, when, to those who lived through it, it seemed that France lay under the sway of the powers of darkness. Again, that's why I do book reviews. I'm trying to learn what's going on. What WTH? What the heck? And I'm using heck for the nice word, for the other H word. So in the great shipwreck of civilization, as a contemporary has described it, the projects of the Kabbalist, I keep getting vindicated in the things I say when I keep reading these different books by famous people. I guess I've come to some correct conclusions. The Gnostics and the secret societies, which for nearly 18 centuries had sapped the foundation of Christianity, found their fulfillment. So think about this. They rejected Jesus 2,000 years ago, and they've been attacking humanity ever since. We do not detect an echo of the Toledat Yisha in the blasphemies of the Marcul de Sade concerning the Jewish slave, and the adulterous woman and a courtesan of Galilee, and in the imprecations of Marat's worshippers. Listen up here. Christ was a false prophet. So this is serious business to some people. A repetition of the secret doctrine attributed to the Templars. So the Templars were the early Freemasons, and it was part of their secret doctrine that Christ was a false prophet. Jesus is not the true God. He is the false prophet, according to the Templars. He was not crucified for the salvation of humanity, but for his own misdeeds. Are these resemblances accidental, or are they the outcome of a continuous plot against the Christian faith? And at least we remember that in the Aleister Crowley video I made, series number 23, these demonic being worshippers, they hate all religions. Even the Hindus, the Buddhists, the Islamic people. Just FYI, the devil doesn't pick favorites, apparently, except for the people who worship him. Satan, Lucifer, maybe you call him Ra, maybe you call him the Pleiadians, maybe you call him Osiris, Isis, Horus, the all-seeing eye on the dollar bill. I'm still trying to understand this stuff thoroughly, and I make these videos so me and the people who watch them, that we can have a conversation. What then was the role of Jews in the revolution? In this connection, it is necessary to understand the situation of the Jews in France at this period. There's going to be some very important information revealed here. After the decree of banishment issued by Charles VI in 1394, Jewry as a body had ceased to exist. So in France, I guess, Charles VI had banished the Jews in 1394. Wow, that's a while back. But towards the end of the 15th century, that would have been the 1400s, a certain number of Jews driven out of Spain and Portugal were allowed to settle in Bordeaux. I guess that would be in France. These Spanish and Portuguese Jews, known as Shepherdim, these would be Orthodox, God-fearing, good Jewish people. FYI. appeared to acquiesce in the Christian religion and were not officially regarded as Jews, but enjoyed considerable privileges conferred on them by Henry II. It was not until the beginning of the 18th century, the 1700s, during the Regency, that Jews began to reappear in Paris. Meanwhile, the annexation of Alsace, it's a city, at the end of the previous century had added to the population of France, get this, the German Jews of that province known as the Akhenaten. The Akhenazi has Nazi in it. Isn't that weird? Hitler and his troops were known as Nazis, and the German Jews were known as the Akhenazis. And apparently they were the descendants of the Khazarians, who 1,000 years earlier had converted to Judaism, and they were renowned for being very barbaric, ruthless people between Germany and Western Russia, the Ukraine, that whole area. So this particular sect of Jews had moved to Alsace in a different part of France. So you got down here that the Shepherdom had relocated to France and were doing just fine, and the Akhenaten were moving to France in a different area and were not doing so fine. You got it? It is important to distinguish between these two races of Jews in discussing the question of Jewish emancipation at the time of the Revolution. So from my investigation, there were certain Jewish people, Illuminati bankster, aristocratic, who had married into wealthy families one way or the other, and had brought us World War I, World War II, 9/11, and so much more, and apparently brought us these revolutions, according to Nesta Webster. So who do you think is going to bring us World War III or the next revolution? Who do you think is behind the white supremacists in Virginia or Alabama? Who's behind the Intifada, the Democrats, liberals, in the different cities? Who's controlling these extremist groups from the left or the right to bring us the Hegelian dialectic, getting the two parties to fight each other and then dragging the rest of us into the fight? 85% of the population. I think it's actually 87% now. 15% used to be awake, but I think it's only 13% now. Those people who are awake and not joining the extremes and being part of the deception or beguilement, the number is diminishing. There's fewer of us. You would think there would be more of us and it would be growing with something they call the Great Awakening, but they're kind of taken hold of that and they're calling the New Age the Great Awakening. Lucifer, demonic Satanism is now the Great Awakening. You can do whatever you want. If you're a boy and you're in grade school and you want to be a girl, just tell your teacher. No worries. You're in the army, you're a man, you want to be a woman? Well, they just banished that in the military. President Donald Trump did. Which seems kind of bizarre to me, but then if I say that, people are going to call me a hater. See how this works? And if they get more incitement of hate out there, which they're trying to do, then they'll pass laws that you can't have hate. And anybody who says anything negative about anything will be arrested, maybe beheaded, thrown in prison, disappeared, ruined, take your license away, get rid of you, fire you from your job, take your children from you. Anyways, I'm reading the book here and reporting. For whilst the Shepherdom had shown themselves good citizens, so you see, this isn't me saying this, and were therefore subject to no persecutions, the Akhenazis, German Jews from that area, previous Khazarians, Khazars, ruthless, barbaric people, for 1,000 or 2,000 years, they were feared by the people from the Middle East, feared by Rome and the Christians. They were to the north. And these appear to be the people that are the Zionists, the people in Israel today. Not all of them, because there's protests in Israel by the Shepherdoms. And even in that book review I did, you can go watch my video, the American Jew who moved to Israel, Jack Bernstein, he moved from New York over there to Israel, and he discovered all this stuff that I'm saying, and he wrote a book. And I read the book and made a video. The Ashkenazis, by their extortionate usury, so they were extortionists, usurists, and oppression, had made themselves detested by the people, so that rigorous laws were enforced to restrain their rapacity. So regrettably, a lot of other good Jews suffered at the hands of the bad Jews, the Ashkenazis. Makes you wonder what kind of DNA they have. Were they part reptilian or something? Is there something more to this than we know? The discussions that raged in the National Assembly, that would be their Congress, on the subject of the Jewish question related therefore mainly to the Jews of Alsace. This would be the Ashkenazi Jews. So they had something called the Jewish question back there in 1784. Who would have thunk of that? All right. It's another day. I had to take a break. Sunday, August 20th, about 5:30. Thought I would try to finish this video. A lot has gone on in between, paying attention to the press releases and the new accusations of people organizing or protesting, whatever you want to call it, getting together for free speech. And then the opposition comes out and says people who are protesting or wanting free speech rights are Nazis. So you got this left and right battle going on, I believe orchestrated by the same people mentioned in this book. So let me continue to read. Already in 1784, and I know a lot of people don't have the intellectual capacity to grasp this battle's been going on for a while. And a lot has happened in the last couple hundred years. A lot has happened that's enabled them to get in the position today by what they've done for the past couple hundred years. World War I, World War II, revolutions, taking over countries' financials, confessions of an economic hitman, getting so many countries in debt so they go bankrupt. So already in 1784, the Jews of Bordeaux, the Shepherditic ones, the ones who were getting along with everybody else, religious ones, had been accorded further concessions by Louis XVI. In 1776, wasn't that when we declared independence here in the United States from Britain? All Portuguese Jews had been given religious liberty and the permission to inhabit all parts of the kingdom. So how can anybody be anti-Semitic if they realize there are good Jews as well as there are bad Jews, as in any other religion? Or people who are not religious. There can be people that are atheists that are good, and people that are atheists that might be bad. All right, the decree on January 28, 1790, conferring on the Jews of Bordeaux the rights of French citizens, put the finishing touch on this scheme of liberation. But the proposal to extend this privilege to the Jews of Alsace evoked a storm of controversy in the assembly and also violent insurrections among the Alsatian peasants. It was thus on behalf of the people that several deputies protested against the decree. So apparently over here in Alsace, there were another cult of Jewish people that were not getting along. The Jews, said the Abbé Murray, that would be like a priest, have traversed 17 centuries without mingling with other nations. So for 2,000 years, it has been obvious to everybody. I've made a lot of videos and I've done a lot of homework, and even in the Encyclopedia Judaica and even under the Chaim Weizmann, the first president of Israel, in his previous involvement promoting Zionism, they all admit that there was a distance between them and other people wherever they lived. The Jews did not want to assimilate or socialize with the rest of us. And not all Jews. And maybe the Jews that we did get along with, I'm just saying maybe they didn't want to socialize either. This makes you wonder, what is the difference? And these are the people that are going to be controlling our world. Seems like right away with all these things they're doing. And a lot of people are waking up to the truth. So I suppose free speech has to be suppressed. So how are you going to suppress free speech? You have to incite hate. Pull out the right, pull out the left, hire some extremist, and get the news and the press to say all this hate is causing chaos and anarchy across the country. That can motivate the politicians to have plausible reasons to create hate laws, and then nobody can say the things that I'm saying reading this book. This book would probably be illegal, as well as many other books. Rewriting history. Anyways, back to the book. They have never done anything but trade with money. They have been the scourge of agricultural provinces, and not one of them has known how to ennoble his hands by guiding the plow. So these people did not have a propensity or a desire to be into farming and other manual labor. And he went on to point out that the Jews must not be persecuted. They must be protected as individuals and not as Frenchmen, since they cannot be citizens. So even though they didn't want to socialize or couldn't get along, or they didn't want to even socialize with everybody, and when they did socialize or get involved with business wherever they went, they have a propensity or a special ability to acquire a lot of assets through money lending. And they would cause disturbances after a while. I guess after all, the people of the village didn't have anything left. I just like to be plain spoken about it. So it says here, whatever you do, they will always remain foreigners in our midst. Monsignor de la Fere, Bishop of Nancy, adopted the same line of argument. So far be it from me for people to say that I'm doing hate speech. I'm just trying to find out what's going on. Why did we have World War I, World War II, 9/11, all those countries in the Middle East destroyed or currently under destruction, plans for Iran, plans for a new age, new world order for the United States, and apparently the whole world. I want to get to the bottom of it. Is it some aliens, the Galactic Federation, coming here to take us over? Or is it some people that have been living on the planet all along, and the people mentioned in the Bible? And a lot of history, a lot of people know about, but they don't want to talk about. I realize it's a difficult conversation, but we better wake up to what the problem is, because the problem is about to put the big boot on us, stomp us out. I don't care what color you are or your sexual orientation or religion. Apparently these forces intend on depopulating the planet. Anyways, going on here with the Bishop of Nancy. They must be accorded protection, safety, liberty, but should we admit into the family a tribe that is foreign to it, that turns its eyes unceasingly toward a common country, that aspires to abandon the land that bears it? So there's been a lot of discussion about that. You know, a lot of the Jewish people, and I guess anybody who can prove they're Jewish and go to Israel, they get automatic dual citizenship. Do I get automatic dual citizenship if I've got some Irish blood in me and I go to Ireland? No. If I have some German blood in me and I go to Germany and I claim my right, do I get dual citizenship? No. What's fair for one party should be fair for everybody. That's my philosophy. How's that for hate? My cashier orders me to protest against the motion that has been made to you. The interests of the Jews themselves necessitate this protest. The people have a horror of them. They are often in Alsace, the victims of popular risings. So again, the Jews themselves were in danger because of the things they were doing and the way they were behaving. And apparently, according to the Encyclopedia Judaica, I've gone over it and I'll be looking at the Encyclopedia Judaica and reading from it, word for word. That's fair. And apparently it even discusses the problems they had wherever they go. Even in Germany, they had congressional or governmental hearings in Britain and Spain and many places, Italy, France, America, on a question called the Jewish problem. Let's admit that. And nobody wants to do genocide against any race or culture. I don't. So if we have this particular problem, I don't think the problem is making them the aristocrats of the world and forcing the rest of us into a Luciferic religion. I'll say no to that. All right. In all this, as will be seen, there is no question of persecution, but of precautions against a race that willfully isolates itself from the rest of the community. Page 248. In order to pursue its own interest and advantages. So these people, I don't know if you saw that video, I put in this video, I should insert it again. The leader of the Jewish people, Israel, said that we don't have a choice. Who is he to say that we don't have a choice? And they're doing all this incitement, pulling out the KKK and white supremacists and trying to anger the left progressives, the black people. And it's kind of backfiring on the left. A lot of those people are white. And apparently they're raising the hate level of black people that they're getting on YouTube videos. I've watched them. Yielding a knife, holding a knife in his hand. This guy was screaming that we're going to kill you. We're going to go in your neighborhoods and burn your houses. And of course, most black people don't think that way. A lot of people are normal people. Chinese people don't think that way. Indian people from India. American Indians. Mayans. Peruvians. And I don't believe black people, the popular population out there, 99% doesn't think that way. But if they can get fooled and enough of them riled up like you see in riots, what can happen? With mind control running rampant across the country, chemtrailing chemicals in the sky, who knows what they can do with that? Electromagnetic radiation, microwaving to people, putting thoughts in people's head. Who knows what they can do with that? Drugs? dealing and creating all kinds of new drugs. Who knows what they could put in alcohol, food? Just saying. And then they're pulling out the 5G network, and there's a lot of gloom and doom videos out there saying it's very dangerous to our world. It's a super high frequency, the size of the cells in your body, and it can permeate, go right through your body. And if it's in high enough intensity, it could cook us from the inside out, or implant thoughts in our heads, or whatever. Kill us. Back to the book. Like I said, who's in charge of the world right now? It is these corporations. It is these secret societies. It is Israel, as Prime Minister Sharon of Israel said in a heated argument in his Congress. Don't worry about America. We control America. Look what Benjamin Netanyahu said in Fink's Bar. Go look it up. And so many other quotes you can go on the internet. So again, free speech has to be suppressed. How do you do it? You have to incite a lot of hatred amongst the population. So then you can enact laws so people can't talk about what I'm talking about. That these people want a new age and to create a new world order, which is globalization. They don't want patriotic citizens in different nations, no matter what nation you live in. But except Israel is going to be patriotic and have a nation free of other people of other DNAs. If you've seen the videos. Why don't I play that video?
Deputy Prime Minister Eli Yishai demanded their expulsion.
אם ייתנו לי את כל הכלים, ואני פועל להשיג את כל הכלים, וזה לא קל. אם ייתנו לי את כל הכלים בלי יוצא מן הכלל, תוך פחות משנה לא יישאר בארץ ישראל אפילו מסתנן אחד. יש להם שם בית. מה זה גירוש? איזה גירוש? הם שווים הביתה. כל מדינה בעולם מתוקנת הייתה עושה את זה. נהפוך להיות מדינת הגירה, אבל יש כאלה שעוינים את המדינה. ולכן הם רוצים להפוך אותה למדינת אזרחי כל העולם. נביא לפה 1,000,000 אפריקאים, 500,000 פיליפינים, 2-3 מיליון סינים, ושלום על ישראל.
למה זה מאיים שיהיו פה 1,000,000 אפריקאים?
זה מאיים כי לא תהיה פה מדינה יהודית. המדינה שלנו, תקשיב, המדינה שלנו שונה ממדינות אחרות. המדינה שלנו היא מדינה יהודית ודמוקרטית.
You can see the name of that video called Jew Tricks, T-R-I-X. And clearly the Jewish leader was saying that his country would not admit other nationalities into Israel. It would dilute that country and change their Jewish culture. But if you watch Jew Tricks and other videos, they are saying they will force the rest of us in the world to assimilate, to dilute our culture, to eliminate Christianity. So they plan on having our world deculturalized, denaturalized. Patriotism will be a crime. People will be a slave. Think about it. But in their country, they're fervent about it. They will not allow other peoples to move into their country. And I've gone over a lot of books. I mean, quite a lot of books. And then regrettably, it seems to be a common denominator that for a couple thousand years, we have people who don't get along with everybody else. And apparently, they're about this far away from controlling the whole world. And they've got some crazy things planned for us. Here's another little clip. See what you think of this from the French president.
Ça va faire parler. Mais l'objectif, c'est relever le défi du métissage. Ce n'est pas un choix. C'est une obligation. Si ce volontarisme républicain ne fonctionnait pas, il faudra alors que la République passe à des méthodes plus contraignantes encore. Nous devons changer, alors nous allons changer.
Hardly anyone imagined just 20 years ago that the native French population would be finding itself in a rapidly decreasing minority here.
Seriously, what's a person supposed to think when they watch these clips, these videos, and the other ones on YouTube, and books that I collect and have been studying for 13 years. This one published in 1924. And if people do a little bit of homework and learn about revolutionary history, they know inciting hatred, the Hegelian dialectic, divide and conquer, is the tactic and the philosophy of a third party to destroy the other two parties. In all this, as will be seen, there is no question of persecution, but of precautions against a race that willfully isolates itself from the rest of the community in order to pursue its own interests and advantages. The Jews of Bordeaux indeed recognized the odium that the German Jews, probably the Khazarians, were calculated to bring on the Jewish cause, and in an address to the Assembly on January 22nd, 1790, disassociated themselves from the aggressive claims of the Akhenaten. So the Shepherdic Jews were separating themselves from the Akhenatans. Shepherdic, just as the word sounds, means shepherd. The Jews that were Hebrews from the Middle East. The Akhenazis, German Nazis, Akhenazi, were from the northern area, Germany, Poland, Ukraine, parts of Russia, and they were Khazarians, Khazars, and for 1,000+ years they were a ruthless, barbaric people until they converted to Judaism. So you have one tribe of Jews who are white and ruthless and barbarians, DNA, and causing all kinds of havoc, chaos, and anarchy wherever they go for a couple thousand years. And regrettably, people are narrow-minded and they blame all Jews, the Shepherdic, the people who wrote books that I've gone over, famous Jewish people, rabbis, PhD, Henry Mackal, writers in Canada, Jewish. He writes the book Illuminati, the cult that hijacked the world. So we can say the Illuminati is probably associated with the Akhenatans, which are the Illuminati, which are the Khazarians, into the occult witchcraft and other nefarious, sinister activities bent on taking over our world. And if you want to throw a religious wrench into this works, apparently their god is Lucifer or Satan, under many different names of beings, spiritual realm, maybe fallen angels, archons, watchers, fallen angels, Nephilim, Palladians, I don't know, but you can start to see the picture. And with all that said, thank you for watching my video and my other videos and leaving comments. If you do disagree, you can still be polite. My concern is I don't want to see riots and death and mayhem in the streets, whether you're male or female, straight or gay, black or white, anybody. This is a great country, the USA, and Europe is a vast land that's great. All over the world, we could be living in peace and harmony if we didn't have these forces who were trying to incite hatred and use the Hegelian dialectic, the divide and conquer tactic, to bring on World War III or a world revolution. And apparently, if they don't have their way, Israel has something called the Samson option. They've got nuclear weapons. Go look up the Samson option. And so much more. They control our politicians. They control the banking systems. And they've all but destroyed the society as we know it in the last 20 or 30 years since World War II. Even with the hippie movement controlling the CIA and other organizations, bringing us heroin and cocaine. Over in Europe, they called it festivals. Here they called it the hippie movement, freedom and all that, love. They use words like love, but they don't mean love. Again, thank you for watching my video, Rick Miracle reporting.